Hi there, my name's Zach, and this is my giant old piano. So we're here in my storage unit in Grand Rapids, Michigan. We're about 45 minutes north of my studio in downtown Kalamazoo, depending on how traffic is going. And I just wanted to take a minute to talk to you guys about my piano and kind of what my plans for this winter are going to be. And you know, just personally, I've been thinking about trying to do a new YouTube series, and it's been many years since I did anything seriously. And I thought this would be a really fun project to do, and there are a few reasons for that. First of all, it's a big project. Second of all, there's a lot of skills involved that I don't have yet. And third of all, I can't do this by myself. So I'm going to learn a lot about antique craftsmanship. I'm going to learn about preservation. I'm going to learn about repair and refinishing. I'm going to learn about tuning, which I know is a whole ball game, but I'm ready to learn, guys. So basically, this piano has been disassembled, meaning I'm about a year and a half into this process, and the first thing I needed to do was get the piano from where it was to this location. So I had to bring it north, again about 40 miles, 45 minutes or so. So I'll show you this in a few minutes, but what I've actually done is made a substructure for the piano, and I've actually crafted it out of 2x4s, and there's a story behind that, and I kind of wish I had cameras rolling, because I'll tell you, my dad and my brothers helped me put all of this together, and it was just a nightmare. And the wheels fell off of it, and we tried to wheel it down a real skinny ramp on a U-Haul, and it was just a mess. It took all day, but eventually we got it here. And then after that, my next hurdle was to actually pull the action and sort of diagnose the problem. So the main problems that we're going to have to deal with this piano first, before we can even put it back together, we have several hammers here that have broken off, and they're in various states of need for repair. There's also a couple that are bowed and kind of like rubbed next to each other. So we're going to have to figure out how to fix this action. Second of all, there's some really big cracks that are running down this rosewood top. Well, it's a rosewood veneer. There's some other type of wood underneath it. That's going to be another thing that we have to figure out along the way. And so I've ordered some clamps, and my intention is to inject these cracks with glue and clamp it, and then put some battens across the top of it and clamp those, and let it sit here for a few days. All the strings are intact. I'm going to attempt to tune it once we get it back together. There is one crack in the soundboard that I'm going to try to repair. Then again, we'll kind of go over this in detail in a few minutes, but I also have the legs here have been removed. They just screw into the bases right here in the corners. And they're going to need some repair. We're going to need to pull those wheels out and clean them and grease them up and maybe replace some bearings. We'll see what we're looking at. They need some body work. There's a couple of cracks in them. They're really massive pieces of wood, and the bottoms of them mostly need some work. And I think I'm going to try to refinish them as well, because there's a lot of damage to the finish on these. So I guess those were the major problems with the piano. Let's talk about its history a little bit. One interesting thing is that this was actually my first discovery about the piano, is this nice service record here on the inside. It's penciled in. So this piece of flashing actually attaches here on the fingerboard, and would go here when the piano is fully assembled. And what's interesting to note is that the earliest date here is 79, but we're not talking about 1979. we're talking about 1879. So it's been difficult to try to date this piano. Obviously, I know that 1879 was the earliest it was professionally serviced. Certainly not by the manufacturer or probably the installer if there was one. What I've been able to ascertain about these pianos, these are box grand pianos, and they're notorious for being difficult to work on, so we also have that going for us. I've been able to find some old resources, old manuals from the manufacturer, which I can't recall the name of right now, and I can't easily lift this up right now to show you, but seeing as how we're in the storage unit, I'm probably going to go downstairs and get a cart, and maybe we'll pull this up. And if I can't get that done today, then I do actually have a bunch of photos that I took of the inside of the piano while we were moving it, and while it's been in here in various states. So the last officially recorded service on this piano was 1909, and that's how I've ascertained that this was actually 1879, is because there's actually a line here that would indicate the turn of the century, and then it goes to '09. So this piano is about 150 years old, give or take several years, dozen years, 15 years. And basically, I think now I'm going to take an opportunity to show you guys some of the details of what I'm working with here and maybe inspect some of the damage. And we'll go over some still photos, and I'll probably record a voiceover from this point on. All right, so welcome back, guys. We've gone mobile here, and I'm just going to kind of walk you through the action and kind of what's going on mechanically and some of the things that I've seen about it that really interested me. And we're just going to dive right in here. The first thing to note is that I've actually, let's see if we can get this camera down here to see what I'm doing here. There's these little tabs, and I need to put those tabs up before I can get the keys to work here. And it seemed to relieve it of some tension if I let all those go down, and I'll show you why. So I can make the hammer jump here by pressing the key. We'll press this key, and it bounces a little bit because it's not hitting a string right, but then this little thing comes out. So let's see if I can, yeah, there it goes. It just dropped down there. We'll go up to the next key, same thing, next key, same thing, and so on. So another thing that we're going to have to deal with is these broken hammers. This is where most of them happen. Now, here, we'll do a better shot here. Now, of course, I have all kinds of awesome camera gear, and eventually we'll take some really sweet shots of the piano. But for right now, the GoPro is going to have to suffice. Mainly because it's like 11 p.m. or something like that on a Monday, and I finished up with work a little bit early and decided to come up here and kind of get started with this YouTube video. So the thing about the hammers is that I lucked out, and I actually have them all the ones that broke off, so I will be able to just glue them back. I don't have to try to recreate one or from scratch. I should have all the pieces that need to be there in order for me to actually fix the thing. So from what I can tell, this is an intact piano, or for the most part it's intact. And the reason that I kind of say that specifically is because it has this matching serial number here. This also appears on one of the legs. I don't know if we're going to be able to find it. I believe it appears on the legs. I could be wrong, I guess. But I do know that it does appear over here on the bottom of the lyre. Whew. not exactly sure what you call this thing. But yeah, right there. Really faintly, 7142. So if we go back over here, you can see 7142. So it's it's written in here somewhere as well, on the actual piano, on the guts of the piano, and we'll get to that. But all in all, man, I really do think this thing's beautiful. Like, the veneer on it could use some work. It's chipping in some places, and I know that I'm going to have to figure out a way to kind of mitigate that, fix it, do what I can. But I mean, just seeing what's kind of poking through here, let's lift up the moving blanket and take a look. We got all this like scroll work here, this custom painting on all of this brass. I'm assuming it's brass. You know, this fine detail here on the bridge. And I mean, yeah, it's in rough shape, guys. I'm not gonna lie. Like, this thing, this temperance matting or muting or mutes or whatever, dampening, is old. I mean, it's 100 years old, I'm assuming. Now, there are a couple here. Let me grab this light here and see if I can shed some light on the subject. All right, so you can kind of see what I've got going on underneath in the guts here. So let's get the tripod situated. I'm actually filming on a monopod with a like little sports thing on the bottom, but this seems to be working. So there's these little pegs down here, right? And these pegs hold pins, and those pins are the fulcrums of levers, and the levers are there's two articulating pieces for each set of levers, and each lever corresponds to one of the pedals on the lyre, and it activates a rod that will do the damping, or I forget what the other pedal action is, but one of those was damaged in transit, and another one was damaged before I got a hold of it. So this is going to be something I have to address in the future, but I've chosen not to worry about it until I've actually accomplished taking care of the legs, because of course the legs also need a lot of work. Let's go over to these other legs, and you can see the damage that's occurred to some to these. And so it's not really extensive damage, but obviously these wheels are in really bad shape. They need to be looked at. But now that I'm looking at it, there's no bearing on this. It's just a pin. But they look pretty robust, and I think I'd be able to clean them up without much issue. And I bet that I'm not sure how they're attached inside there, but I guess we're gonna have to figure that out. So another cool thing about these, and you can see the next point of damage that I'm gonna have to repair, is they're actually threaded, and these things are massive. They're like 1.5 inches in diameter, or maybe a little bit more. And you can see on the upper part of the further one there, it's got some damage there. So I'm gonna need to figure out how I'm gonna fix that. I think I'm gonna try to whittle something that matches on those larger sections there, and kind of glue it on. And then for the other ones, I might try to just Bondo them. On here, you can see some extensive damage on some of the edging pieces. And I mean, it is what it is. You know, it's going to show its age, and that's okay. But I mean, you can see drips from the original finish there. I mean, these things are just freaking beautiful. Here, let's go over here to my like little parts chest. This was a bench that was given to me along with the piano, and I'll tell the story about the piano here in a few minutes. But this is where I've kind of stored all of the pieces parts. So I've got the hinges here and all of the original screws for reattaching the top. This is all of the levers that operate the foot pedals and the corresponding rods here. Some of the hardware that's holding on the action. And I have little pieces that had fallen off of the legs. I'm not quite sure what's in here, but I'm assuming it's probably wood pieces. Let's check a little bit more about the history of the piano. So I got it from a woman named Peggy, and she got it, I believe, in the mid to late 90s, maybe early 90s, and it was rescued from the Stewart neighborhood in Kalamazoo from one of the historic homes there. And it was on the street corner for maybe a couple hours, and she came and picked it up, kept it in her place for a while, moved it to a storage unit in the Park Trade Center, and there it sat just kind of in situ for over 20 years, actually.